We know what the right thing to do is. It's a matter of political will. It's not any longer a matter of policy. And I'm going to continue to encourage them to get this done. As far as our actions, Jeh Johnson, our new head of the Department of Homeland Security, has been talking to everybody law enforcement. Immigrant rights groups to do a thoroughgoing review of our approach towards enforcement. And we're doing that in consultation with Democrats and Republicans and with any interested party. I do think that the system we have right now is broken. I'm not alone in that opinion. The only way to truly fix it is through congressional action. We have already tried to take as many administrative steps as we could. We're going to review it one more time to see if there's more that we can do to make it more consistent. With common sense and more consistent with, I think, the attitudes of the American people. Which is, we shouldn't be in the business necessarily of tearing families apart who otherwise are law-abiding. And so let me. Question, do you have a time? President Obama, I won't get into timing right now because Mr. Johnson is going to go ahead and do that review. Tamara Keith. Question, so you regarding the Affordable Care Act, I think you. President Obama, yes, let's talk about that. Question, since you brought it up. I think everyone agrees that it has flaws. but Democrats have been sort of reluctant in Congress to reopen the conversation. And Republicans have been more than happy to reopen the conversation, but in a different way. Now that, as you say, it's here to stay, there are so many people that signed up. In this environment, is it possible to do the kind of corrections that the business community and many others would like to see, sort of small, technical corrections? President Obama, it is absolutely possible. But it will require a change in attitude on the part of the Republicans. I have always said from the outset that on any large piece of legislation like this, there are going to be things that need to be improved, need to be tweaked. I said that I think the day I signed the bill. And I don't think there's been any hesitation on our part to consider ideas that would actually improve the legislation. The challenge we have is that if you have certain members in the Republican Party whose view is making it work better is a concession to me, then it's hard in that environment to actually get it done. And I recognize that their party is going through the stages of grief. Anger and denial and all that stuff, and we're not at acceptance yet. But at some point, my assumption is that there will be an interest to figure out how do we make this work in the best way possible. We have 8 million people signed up through the exchanges. That doesn't include the 3 million young people who are able to stay on their parents' plan. It doesn't include the 3 million people who benefited from expansions to Medicaid. So if my math is correct, that's 14 million right there. You've got another 5 million people who signed up outside. Of the marketplaces but are part of the same insurance pool. So we've got a sizable part of the US population now in the first for the first time in many cases. In a position to enjoy the financial security of health insurance. And I'm meeting them as I'm on the road. I saw a woman yesterday, young woman, maybe 34, with her mom and her dad. And she's got 2 small kids and self-employed husband, and was diagnosed with breast cancer. And this isn't an abstraction to her. She is saving her home. She is saving her business. She is saving her parents' home. Potentially, because she's got health insurance, which she just could not afford. And the question now becomes if, in fact, this is working for a lot of people, but there are still improvements to make. Why are we still having a conversation about repealing the whole thing? And why are we having folks say that any efforts to improve it are somehow handing Obama a victory? This isn't about me. And my hope is that we start moving beyond that. My suspicion is that probably will not happen until after November because it seems as if this is the primary agenda item in the Republican political platform. But here's what I know, the American people would much rather see us talk about jobs. Would much rather see us talk about high college costs, would much rather see us discussing how we can rebuild our roads and our bridges and our infrastructure and put people back to work. they'd much rather see us talk about how we'd boost wages and boost incomes and improve their individual family bottom lines. And if the Republicans want to spend the entire next 6 months or year talking about repealing a bill that provides millions of people health insurance without providing any meaningful alternative, instead of wanting to talk about jobs and the economic situation of families all across the country, that's their prerogative. At some point I think they'll make the transition. That's my hope, anyway. If not, we're just going to keep on doing what we're doing. Which is making it work for people all across the country. I'm sorry, I'm going to say one last thing about this, just because this does frustrate me. States that have chosen not to expand Medicaid for no other reason than political spite. You've got 5 million people who could be having health insurance right now at no cost to these states, zero cost to these states other than ideological reasons. They have chosen not to provide health insurance for their citizens. That's wrong. It should stop. Those folks should be able to get health insurance like everybody else. Isaac, from Politico. Where are you, Isaac? There you are. Question, thank you, MR. President. Given all that you were just saying about the Affordable Care Act, do you think it's time for Democrats to start campaigning loudly and positively on the benefits of Obamacare? Will you lead that charge? And on Ukraine, you've said in other situations Iran. For example, that the military option remains on the table even as talks go on. Is the military option on the table with Russia? And if so, would that be through NATO forces, through lethal aid to Ukraine? President Obama, now, keep in mind I think I've been very clear that military options are not on the table in Ukraine because this is not a situation that would be amenable to a clear military solution. What we have to do is to create an environment in which irregular forces disarm. That the seizing of buildings cease, that a national dialogue by Ukrainians not by Russians. Not by Americans or anybody else, but by Ukrainians takes place. They move forward with reforms that meet the interests of the various groups within Ukraine. They move forward with elections, and they start getting their economic house in order. That's what's going to solve the problem. And so obviously, Russia right now still has its forces amassed. Along the Ukrainian-Russian border as a gesture of intimidation. And it is our belief and not ours alone, but I think broad portions of the international community believe. That Russia's hand is in the disruptions and chaos that we've been seeing in southern and eastern Ukraine. But there is an opportunity for Russia to take a different approach. We are encouraging them to do so. In the meantime, we're going to prepare additional responses should Russia fail to take a different course. We've already had an impact on their economy that is well documented. It could get significantly. Worse. But we don't have an interest in hurting ordinary Russians just for the sake of it. Our strong preference would be for Mr. Putin to follow through on what is a glimmer of hope coming out of these Geneva talks. But we're not going to count on it until we see it. And in the meantime, we're going to prepare what our other options are. With respect to the Affordable Care Act, my point is that we've been having a political fight about this for 5 years. We need to move on to something else. That's what the American people are interested in. I think that Democrats should forcefully defend and be proud of the fact that millions of people like the woman I just described who I saw in Pennsylvania yesterday. We're helping because of something we did. I don't think we should apologize for it, and I don't think we should be defensive about it. I think there is a strong, good, right story to tell. I think what the other side is doing and what the other side is offering would strip away protections from those families and from hundreds of millions of people who already had health insurance before the law passed. But never knew if the insurance company could drop them when they actually needed it. Or women who were getting charged more just because they were a woman. I'm still puzzled why they've made this their sole agenda item when it comes to our politics. It's curious. But what I intend to talk about is what the American people are interested in hearing. Our plans for putting people back to work, our plans for making sure our economy continues to innovate. Our plans to make sure that, as I discussed yesterday, we're training people for the jobs that are out there right now, and making better use of our community colleges and linking them up with businesses. And how we're going to continue to bring manufacturing back the way we have over the last several years. And how we're going to put more money in the pockets of ordinary people.